All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time to do the Tao now, Tuesday Tao. And today's subject is titled by Dr. Wayne Dyer here, Living Beyond Judgment. And he gets this from the 49th verse of the Tao Te Ching. And so, judgment, isn't that interesting, ladies and gentlemen? What does that mean for you in your life? And what would living beyond judgment possibly look like? Well, let's dive right into the 49th verse of the Tao Te Ching and see what we can learn about this most fascinating subject of judgment. The 49th verse of the Tao Te Ching. The sage has no fixed mind. He is aware of the needs of others. Those who are good he treats with goodness. Those who are bad he also treats with goodness, because the nature of his being is goodness. He is kind to the kind. He is also kind to the unkind, because the nature of his being is kindness. He is faithful to the faithful. He is also faithful to the unfaithful. The sage lives in harmony with all below heaven. He sees everything as his own self. He loves everyone as his own child. All people are drawn to him. He behaves like a little child. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that's a deep one. That's a deep one. That's one that you could put on a little post-it somewhere and put it in your place so you can always remember those lines. Kind to the kind and the unkind, because your nature is kindness, or your nature is goodness, or your nature is faithfulness or harmony. And, seeing everything as our own self is a very interesting aspect that you begin to learn when studying these subjects of the Tao Te Ching. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive right into what Dr. Wayne Dyer has to say and what we can learn from this 49th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Wayne Dyer begins by saying, in this gently powerful verse, we're encouraged to change the way we view virtually everyone on the planet, which is what the theme of all of this is, ladies and gentlemen, is changing our thoughts and changing our lives. And so that's the point. So if we can begin to gradually change the way we view whatever it is, in this instance, virtually everyone on the planet. Lao-tzu saw, Wayne Dyer continues, the potential for existing harmoniously through living beyond judgment. And thus, this 49th verse of the Tao Te Ching invites us to explore that peaceful world beyond judgment. It's encouraging us to replace our idea of criticizing them, or criticizing them with an acknowledgement of us without criticism. Imagine the possibilities here for all humanity if we simply eliminated prejudice and could live in harmony with all below heaven, as quoted from the 49th verse. And so you can begin changing your view of judgment, Wayne says, as a valuable or important activity by being aware of when you're doing it to yourself. This is the most powerful distinction here, ladies and gentlemen, and how you can begin to move beyond judgment is because the more we judge others, the more we judge ourselves. And the more we judge ourselves, the more we judge others. It just goes in a circle. And so we have to stop the circle at some point, but sometimes it's easier to recognize and become aware of when we're doing it to ourselves. And so he continues here, it's like, then simply start by substituting noticing for judging. So instead of judging, you begin noticing. And you go, I noticed that about you. Become a detached observer, I'll describe it as, where you're not the thing that you are judging, even though it may be a part of yourself. So this is where, it can get confusing for people that have only thought of themselves as a singular, that's a different subject, ladies and gentlemen, but I believe you know where I'm going there. with that one. So we'll continue here. Calling your behavior, which is different than who you are. You have behaviors and you have thoughts and things, but that isn't all of who you are. And so sometimes we will judge ourselves, judge all of who we are based on our thoughts and our behaviors. Now, from this perspective of noticing instead of judging, we will realize pretty quickly that we prefer to observe what we're doing or feeling rather than critiquing ourselves, because it feels better, it feels lighter. It's like, oh, I don't have to beat myself up so bad all the time. Calling your behavior bad or good, Wayne continues, just pits you against yourself and others by using competition, punishment, or dislike as your motivational markers. Hatred, anger, and threats become necessary because love, acceptance, and kindness can't be trusted. And see how we begin to do this to ourselves without even knowing it, ladies and gentlemen? It's fascinating. As you move away, Wayne continues, from judging yourself, you'll no longer need or want what Lao-tzu calls the fixed mind. Thus, allegiances that pitted you against people, you thought of them, he words this weird, but the allegiances that pitted us against the people that we thought of them as, bad people or whatever, this will begin to dissolve. The innumerable categories that helped us organize our labels become totally silly and unimportant when we begin to change the way we look at their so-called value, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is deep, but this is how you break down and disassemble the judgment process and begin to experience more peace, more joy, more harmony, more comfort in our lives, and in turn increase the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us. Now, in spite of having been conditioned by the contrary and the country and the, society that we were born in, the religion you were assigned to at birth, and the culture you were immersed in, or even the family who raised us, living beyond judgment becomes our preference. And I think in the process of trying to create it, our preference, by this process that he's been describing here of observing and, not critiquing and criticizing ourselves, but just observing and then beginning to attempt to make a change in a new way, or, a choice in a new way, whether it be a thought or a behavior, and so when we can begin to living beyond judgment, then the feeling that it gives us, the joy, the peace, the comfort, the harmony, all of this, instead of this judgment process, this harmony with the Tao that excludes no one and has no conditions or divisions, it's like living beyond judgment becomes our preference. We'd rather do that because we know that falling back into this critiquing and judging, whether it be ourselves or others, is miserable living. And our entire lives is the present moment, ladies and gentlemen. So how do you use up your present moments? Hope everybody's got a nice beverage, and I hope everybody's getting value. If you are, leave me a comment with a thumbs up or that says yes. And thank you for being here. Now let's continue, ladies and gentlemen, on living beyond judgment. And so this is the basic solution, like the oneness that the Tao, he goes, this is what Wayne says: you exist in harmony with the Tao that excludes no one and has no conception of divisions and loyalties. The oneness of the Tao, remember the way, entices you away from any belief that others are separate. I love the saying that really got this into my mind was, this oneness, that we are everyone and everyone is us, which is a hard place to get to from what we've been taught our entire lives. It's like, oh, this is me and that's you and I'm not connected to you, or, And so the opposite of that is very fascinating when you look at other people as yourselves, or and so the quote or the sentence that really got this into my mind and made it make sense for me was, it's like, when you hurt a human being, or when you judge a human being, maybe since we're talking about judgment here, this will be perfect. When you judge a human being, you judge the generic human being. So in other words, when you judge one person, you judge all people. And so if you're in the mindset that says, what? That's ridiculous. When you judge one person, and everybody else is doing different things. Well, of course, if you want to think about it in physical terms, but if you're a bit more spiritual and metaphysical about things, and think about things more than just a, rocks and dirt existence, then maybe you can begin to understand the philosophies that we're talking about here and this idea of oneness. But ladies and gentlemen, I've done videos on oneness on this channel multiple times, probably not even too long ago. And so if you want to look back in this series, which we're 49 or 50 episodes into or something like that, as well as the series we do tomorrow on Wednesdays with Wisdom of the Ages, you will find many, many discussions from me and Dr. Wayne Dyer and Lao-tzu and all the wonderful authors and poets of the Wisdom of the Ages, which is right here behind us, ladies and gentlemen, that will teach us about this concept of how we are connected and the idea of oneness. But I felt that important to say because for some reason I felt like somebody might be watching that's struggling with this idea of connection and oneness. Now, back into judgment, ladies and gentlemen. It's like the basic solution. This is the basic solution to wars and conflicts. When the oneness of the Tao convinces us, or the oneness of this way of thinking, changing our thoughts, changing our lives, changing the world, when this way teaches us that we don't have to have any belief that others are separate from us, even though we know that's the case in a very concrete physical sense. But when we look deeper, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the basic solution to wars and conflicts, Wayne says. You see, when you stop judging and instead begin to see yourself in others, you can't help. Maybe that's a sentence that'll make it easy for people. Just begin to see yourself in other people. Put like the old saying, walk a few steps or a mile in their shoes, or think about that. And yes, see, I'm beginning to ramble a lot. Let's continue, ladies and gentlemen. If you're getting value, smash the like button. And instead begin to see yourself in others. You can't help but love the uniqueness of everyone as though they were your own children. Then instead of exclusions and allegiances, the oneness of the Tao graces all, unimpeded. Rather than God bless America, or whatever country you happen to reside in, Allah save our people, or Krishna bless those who believe you, there's God bless humanity. Let me do all that I can to treat everyone, without exception, with goodness and kindness, as all of those whom we revere as spiritual masters taught us by their example. That was a good little sentence, half a paragraph there, ladies and gentlemen. Let God, or the Tao, or universal, grand organized design, great intelligence, the source energy, whatever it is that's breathing our, I'm not thinking about breathing or beating my heart or digesting. It's like all of this stuff just does itself. And so God bless humanity and let us do all that we can to treat everyone without exception with goodness and kindness, as all of those whom we revere as spiritual masters have taught us by their example. As your worldview changes, Wayne continues, you'll extend goodness to everyone that you encounter. You'll find that you can feel non-judgmental compassion for the mistreated, even when their way of seeing things causes you and yours pain. You can send out kindness, not only in response to kindness, but especially when you're the recipient of cruelty, which is where the real spiritual work comes in, ladies and gentlemen. That's where the rubber meets the road, is when you begin to practice those things, because this is a practice. We don't just go out and do one push-up and get strong. You have to begin to do a lot of push-ups all the time, and then you get good at things, and they become, you become easier, and then you have this ability. It's something that's been created through practice. Now, and so we can feel non-judgmental, and we can practice this even when someone sends us cruelty or negativity. Why? You might ask, why? How is this possible? Because as Lao-tzu reminds you in the poignant verse, the nature of your being is this thing of non-judgment, kindness, goodness. Let's go back to reference. Faithfulness, kindness, goodness, harmony, and he sees everything as his own self and loves everyone as his own child. The sage lives in harmony with all below heaven. To me, that means all who are here now, incarnated in the physical reality that we're temporarily experiencing, which I think some in the non-physical reality might be like, man, that's a journey, let's go live that physical reality and try to, advance as a spirit and anyways, see, I like to ramble, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, hope you're getting value. If you are, let me know in the comments below. But you can send out kindness because it is your being. You can be non-judgmental because you have practiced it and made it become your being, who you are. And so it becomes very natural then when you can get to that place. You see yourself in everyone. It's impossible to give others what you are not. And you are not judgmental. If you are not judgmental, then you cannot give others judgment. That makes sense. So oftentimes this is said about love, to where you can't give away what you don't have. And so if you don't have love for yourself and for your life, or even just for the opportunity to continue this process, however struggling it may be, I love myself even though I've struggled, because I'm going to continue to grow. Keep going and keep growing, ladies and gentlemen. That was a great video title I did back in the very beginning of this channel a couple of years ago. Makes me wonder what I was rambling about in that one, but it was probably a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Now, so when you get to this place of non-judgment, you see that, or this place of self-love, you see that that's what you have to give to others, which is fascinating. Because if you don't have that, you can't give it to other people. You see yourself in everyone without the need to criticize them or yourself. Because if you see yourself in them and them in you, different characteristics and behaviors and traits and little funny quirks and, even negative things, it's like, yeah, I struggle with that too. Then you begin this beautiful harmony and this weight that is like lifted off of you in life. And you begin to feel so much better, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, I've experienced this for myself through this work, through this practice. Now, I didn't read this book at the time I was learning this. I was just listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer's lectures for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, going through audiobooks. And the great thing about his audiobooks, I might have the link to Audible below in the description if you want to check out some of Wayne Dyer's audiobooks. But it's like he speaks these books like he's at like he's giving a talk at like a conference or a seminar. And so it's a little bit different format. He doesn't just read word for word. It's very interesting and it's a lot of fun. So please check that out if you haven't, ladies and gentlemen. That might be the breakthrough that you need, because all of us learn differently. Some of us by listening, some of us by reading, some of us by watching. And I think a mix of all three is really good, but it's up to you to figure out how you learn, ladies and gentlemen, and begin to learn, because learning is the real skill. Now, as your worldview changes, Wayne says, you will extend goodness to everyone that you encounter. That's it's a good thought. So change, like once we see ourselves in everyone without the need to criticize them or ourselves, which is where we're getting with this work, we change our thoughts and live beyond judgment. And we don't see ourselves as bad when we falter, especially when we falter. In this view, or as holy when you succeed. See, that's a good thing. That's why I always love that quote, becoming good, independent of the good opinion of other people. Because so often it's like, oh yeah, don't listen to people when they say bad things. But it's also when people say you're the best in the world, you also have to have this balance. Like, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. But at the same time, I know I'm just on my path and I am good and I love myself where I am, but none of us are the best in the world. And none of us are the worst in the world. I mean, because then you begin to judge those who are or aren't, rather than just seeing ourselves in everyone. Like we all suck at something, and so we're all great, and it's just fine. I always love that one. It's like, if you think you suck at something, don't worry, everybody else sucks too. And we're all just good at different things. Now, this is what I feel, Wayne says, called by Lao-tzu to offer us from this 49th verse of the Tao Te Ching. He says, change the way you look at yourself. And so this is going to what he was saying just a second ago. So it's like, when we live beyond judgment, we don't see ourselves as bad when we falter or view ourselves as holy when we succeed. Keep in mind that you're a mix of infinite openness and infinite limitation. So unlimited and limited at the same time in an infinite way, as we all are, which means we can access whichever side we want to go to. And so sometimes you just need to notice yourself judging without then judging yourself. That's a knock it out the park sentence right there, ladies and gentlemen. So sometimes you just need to notice yourself judging without then judging yourself for judging. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I love this. That's why I love this teacher, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and this wisdom from Lao-tzu and the Tao Te Ching, because it really gets on practical, like, day-to-day things that we struggle with, whether it be stress or anxiety or, the judgment and criticism of ourselves and others, or it's like all these, things that people really need to know to change their lives and experience a much higher quality of life, which is what I'm all about here at this channel. So if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing, ladies and gentlemen, because we will continue doing this probably until I'm, old and gray and look like a wizard then or something. That sounds fun. Now, he says this is what he feels called to do by Lao-tzu to offer us from this 49th verse of the Tao Te Ching. So Wayne had this picture of Lao-tzu in his writing studio on Maui. I bet that was beautiful. I'd love to go there and walk on some of the beaches that he walked on, meditate in some of the places, maybe even go see. Anyways, that's just me. And, so change that. This is what he had this picture of Lao-tzu up there, and he tried to connect to Lao-tzu or the energy or whatever that be, the spirit of Lao-tzu, and like, all right, Lao-tzu, help me write what will help people in contemporary times today with this knowledge from the Tao Te Ching. Like, what would you say, Lao-tzu? And so then he just starts writing, like, and he's a skilled writer. He's written many books and went through a lot of schooling. And so he knows how to write. So whether you want to say it's automatic writing, that I think that's always up for debate. But this guy already has the skill and the ability to take thoughts and ideas and flow it out onto paper. I mean, don't we all wish we could publish a book? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's... He says, change the way we look at ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. If you pride yourself on having a fixed mind, realize that it relies on conditioning that generally shows up as a prejudice. Instead, see yourself as flexible, since being open is the higher virtue. Pride yourself on extending your goodness and kindness to all sides, even when they oppose your programmed learning. That's a very fascinating way to put it, ladies and gentlemen. So I think the key really is, which is what Wayne Dyer says here, begin to see yourself as a person who notices instead of judges. Avoid taking one position and sticking to it no matter what the circumstances are. Rather, be in harmony with all people, especially those whose opinions conflict with yours. And remember to include yourself when dispensing kindness and non-judgment. And number two here, ladies and gentlemen, change the way you look at other people. So number one was change the way you look at yourself. Number two, change the way you look at other people. And these are ways that we can live beyond judgment. One version of this verse says, and this is changing the way we look at other people now, I trust men of their world, and I trust liars. If I am true enough, I feel the heartbeats of others above my own. So whether you call it judging or labeling, Wayne says, notice when you think of others as evil, lazy, dishonest, stupid, or ugly, or whatever it be, and then affirm, I see myself in this person. And I choose to be in a space of goodness rather than judgment. There's a Sanskrit word I'm sure many of you have heard, namaste. That can help you with this idea. When used as a greeting, it roughly translates to, I honor the place in you where we are all one. So silently or verbally begin telling others, namaste, in order to remind yourself to love everyone as if they were even your own children, ladies and gentlemen. And so finally, which is the reason you should get this for yourself, to put it on your shelf, ladies and gentlemen, is not only because the great wisdom and the ability to change our lives, but at the end of each of these verses, Wayne Dyer gives us a short little, few sentences on how we can apply this wisdom from the Tao Te Ching from 2,500 years ago into our life today. And he gives us what's called Do the Tao Now, Tuesday Tao, ladies and gentlemen. And today's Do the Tao Now says, vow to spend a day looking for opportunities to practice kindness in circumstances that usually provoke judgment. Notice what you think or say about a panhandler, a relative whom you feel animosity towards, or even a politician or TV commentator speaking in terms that send you off in a flurry of critical thoughts. Take the opportunity to become a noticer, decreasing your criticism while increasing the amount of courtesy and goodness in our world, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. That's a boom to wisdom, a boom to living beyond judgment, becoming non-judgmental, and discovering true happiness and peace and contentment and kindness and goodness in our world. But I think the most important sentiment here was this, is it's impossible to give others what you are not. And if you're non-judgmental, then you can give that to them. You see yourself in everyone without the need to criticize them or yourself. And so sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, we just need to notice our self-judging without then judging ourselves. And then we can begin to take a different direction in the process. That was a good one, ladies and gentlemen. That was a true lesson on judgment and how we can begin the work of this. Stop judging others and stop judging yourself. Next week's Tuesday Tao will be the 50th verse, ladies and gentlemen, of the Tao Te Ching. And guess what it's titled? Living as an Immortal. Living as an Immortal. Immortality, ladies and gentlemen. The first line of the verse is between birth and death. It's going to be a good one. Hope you're excited for that, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you really got value today learning about living beyond judgment. And be sure to check the description below, ladies and gentlemen. I have the book itself linked there, Amazon link. And if the link doesn't work, then leave me a comment and let me know. I'll fix it. And also be sure to check out my landscape paintings. I have a link to my Etsy shop. I'm always ready to ship those out. I got the shipping boxes right over there. And as well, check out some C60 Purple Power. Health is an important factor in life. And so that's also why I have that link down there below. I've been taking that for a few years, ladies and gentlemen. It might even be 4 or 5 now. It's been quite a while, but it's getting more popular. You always love to see products get great reviews, you know, on these review platforms or whatever it be. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, remember, this is the key that I always end my videos with. Remember to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness and a greater understanding of not only the nature of the reality that we live in, but through the wisdom of the ages. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, to make happiness the way, because if happiness is the way that we bring to life, then the goal that we've been so long striving for, telling ourselves, I'll be happy when I get there, becomes irrelevant, because we're already there, ladies and gentlemen. And then the entire journey becomes wonderful. All right, once again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I love and appreciate everybody for being here. If you're subscribed, smash the like and leave me a comment that says, "What's up, Chase? I enjoy your videos." And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing, ladies and gentlemen, because we'll be back tomorrow for some Wednesday wisdom, bringing you the wisdom of the ages. All right, love you, ladies and gentlemen. Until tomorrow, stay frosty. Na, 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 na.